I'm so excited today because I get to talk about a new little analog horror guy. He's not little actually, and he's also not that new, but new to me and little in that he's won my heart over. Hello, my name is GlitchWitch.jpg. I make videos about internet horror, analog horror, digital horror, creepypasta, ARGs, internet urban legends, and sometimes a little bit of survival horror and horror movies. And today, the ball is back in analog horror's court. 2025 has been an analog horror heavy year for me, for sure. I just love it. So I'm always excited to find new series, to me at least. I found a lot this year and also covered some old favorites as well. But I've had this one kind of sitting in the back on my radar for a few months, and I finally sat down to watch it, and I'm very happy. I love it. I'm excited. The series in question is Obelisk by Lizardmen Inc. And this is not a new series, and I wouldn't call it an underrated series either. The first video, Obelisk, My New Friend, came out 8 months ago, and you know, the lowest viewed video has 57,000 views, so you know, it's doing pretty good. Lizardmen Inc. has a decent amount of subscribers, so for once, I'm happy to come to you with one that I wasn't familiar with that is popular. So many times I stumble across these ones, and I'm like, God damn it, why is no one watching this? So people are watching this. You may have seen this. I don't know why I didn't really see anything about it until this year. It kept getting suggested to me. I think specifically Obelisk in Your Home was the one that kept showing up in my suggested, and I saw a little face, and if you know me, you know I love a weird face in internet horror. So I bookmarked it, saved it for later, what have you, and later has finally come. A new video was released 2 weeks ago, and that was kind of what made me go, I need to talk about this now. So the dust has settled on any other thing I had to talk about, and I finally have a moment to talk about Obelisk. So I am going to run through it, watch it together, because it's like less than 15 minutes of video. But please subscribe to Lizardmen Inc. Go watch it on Lizardmen Inc.'s channel. Support them. I'm gonna say it right off the bat. I don't have a confident answer to tell you what the literal plot of this is. This one is pretty dense, to me at least. It is not an easy one to crack story-wise. It's certainly ongoing, based on what I've seen Lizardmen Inc. post, and I do feel like it's getting a little more concrete in its plot. But I'm not opposed to a loose plot. I'm not opposed to an analog horror series just kind of exploring concepts instead of here is character A and here is character B and here is the fallout that character A and character B have. I don't need that all the time. It's cool when it happens, but it's also cool when we're dealing with more vague concepts, because that's something that you can do very easily with horror. So there are certain concepts that are calling out to me, but I want you to know that I'm gonna be doing some good old GlitchWitch, just throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. So do not take anything that I say in my analysis section of this to be canon. I have no clue. I'm gonna do what I like to call the curtains are not just blue, because I hate the whole don't read into it, sometimes the curtains are just blue. No, I'm the English teacher, bitch. The curtains are never just blue. Never. But I was trying to channel I'm gonna call him the Obelisk. I don't know if the creature in this is the Obelisk, but my husband and I have been calling him Obby. So I dubbed the Obby. I was trying to channel him with my, because he's kind of got the little gesture thing going on. But let's get into it. Let's watch Obelisk, and then we'll talk, because I have a lot of thoughts both on what the hell's going on and just the way that it's made. I have a lot of thoughts on the look and the feel. that is all of Obelisk as of me recording this. Now, before I get into theories, because there's a lot going on, obviously, I'm gonna talk about just the production, the aesthetics, all of that. So, first off, it's no secret if you've watched my channel before, I do love a VFX artist making an analog horror. Obviously, the go-to that we think of is Kane Pixels with Backrooms and The Oldest View. If you go to earlier videos, I kind of was like, I don't like the Backrooms that much, and it was never the Backrooms itself. The async stuff is not my cup of tea. I'm never gonna be able to get into that element of the Backrooms, but the production quality, the skill level of Kane Pixels is obviously unparalleled, and I love The Oldest View. The Oldest View is one of my favorite internet horror projects ever. But I love when people use 3D modeling for internet horror. I think it just works, and I think, to me, it's just such an interesting look. Harmony and Horror is another example that I think is great. It's a lot more stylized, but it still is using 3D modeling. Harmony Horror, I would classify almost more as animation, whereas this is visual effects. So I love that. I love the environment. They look very realistic. Like, this is definitely hitting some Kane Pixels skill level here. But the one thing that I do really like about this that, I think is refreshing when it comes to, artists who are trying to do the realism, the creature, Obelisk, I don't know if that's what he's called, or they, I think there's two, I'll get into that in a second. The creatures are stylized. I love the way they look. Definitely, you can see the influence of existing internet horror styles. There's a little bit of Trevor Henderson and You're Almost Gone. There's a little Dr. Nowhere vibes. That's fine. I'm not saying that they're copying. It's just kind of an aesthetic that, is now part of the internet horror zeitgeist. The same way that after the Mandela catalog came out, everyone did scary face JPEGs. This is refreshing because the entity is almost cute. I'm not scared of the creature itself, it's more the tension that leads to the creature. So I really like that. I will always champion the stylization of 3D modeling. I think about her every day. That sounds like hyperbole. I do probably think of the Sleepwalker Experiment lady once a week minimum. What else can I say? Look at her. It doesn't get much better than that. But, so what I'm saying is, I love a stylized humanoid weirdo. This is the analog horror scary face in a completely different way, and I love that. I think that's super cool. The vibe is very Skinamarink in a way that I don't think any other internet horror has tapped into. Obviously, Skinamarink lives rent-free in all of our brains, but this got the, sickening, warm nostalgia that Skinamarink has down pat. Lizardmen Inc. really managed to bottle up the essence of Skinamarink and put it into his own work. While it still feels original, though, it's not just copy-paste. Somehow it's, warmer. It's more inviting to me than Skinamarink is. It is quite literally warmer. The color palette is very warm. It's yellows, it's beiges, whereas Skinamarink is very blue. So, color theory is real, and it does have an impact on our psychological, perception of things. So that's part of it. But this feels older as well. Skinamarink is very much clearly 90s. This feels like the 70s almost. I think it's maybe just the color palette, but something about it is just it feels like a dream and a nightmare happening at the same time. There's the warmth of being somewhere that you recognize and somewhere familiar, but there's that tension and that fear of not quite knowing where everything is. This is full of things I really like. I love a scary house and not a haunted house. I feel like I say that a lot. There's a difference between a haunted house and a scary house. A scary house is where the house itself is scary. There's no ghost making it scary, and that usually has to do with the layout of said house. So House of Leaves, the Diana house, Skinamarink, things like that, where the house itself is weird and something is off with it. The houses in this, specifically in the video, The House with No Windows, where we see the house with no windows, really captures that well. The way that the cameraman goes down the hallways and stuff also reminds me of the labyrinth level in Silent Hill 2, more so the original Silent Hill 2 than the remake, because in the remake they kind of, it's one of my few criticisms of the remake, is I feel like the labyrinth is a little too, like, they grunged it up, whereas in the original it's so bare bones that it's like even more nauseating. So to me, this is really nailing liminal horror, without trying too hard or without being too obvious. Like, it, the environments just feel natural. They feel realistic to what's going on, and there are two modes of like aesthetic going on here, which is one of the things that is confusing me. I will level with you guys. This series confuses me a little bit. And that's not me necessarily dissing the series. I maybe am just too thick in the brain to understand what's going on. And also, it's not finished. So, there may be more information coming that will make it make sense. But we have this VHS found footage style, which we see in Obelisk, My New Friend, Obelisk, You're Almost Gone, and Obelisk, The House with No Windows. And then we have a point and click game style that you see in Obelisk, In Your Home, and Obelisk, Why Do You Keep Us Here? And those seem to correspond to each other as well. And there seems to be two different entities in each respective visual style. I like both visual styles. I will say, personally, the point and click I think is really cool, and it's a little more unique than just found footage VHS. I think the found footage VHS is done really well here. But I love a point and click game. That's kind of been something I've been very fixated on lately. I made that Screen Life video recently that had there was a movie, Deadware, that I covered in that had a point and click. Kane Pixels has been doing a point and click series. I'm not sure it's done yet. I need to check because I do want to make a video about that. I love a point and click. I played Myst a few months ago, and it's just made me love a point and click. So I just think it's unique, and it's blending digital and analog horror, which I think is always awesome. I think both styles are done very effectively, and I'm curious to see how Lizardman Inc. grows, skill-wise, because they're already incredible, and I think they're only 20 years old according to their bio, so like I can't wait to see how this artist grows. Now, let me get into the plot here. The timeline and all of that, I'm at a little bit of a loss for. I definitely think that Obelisk, My New Friend, and Obelisk, The House with No Windows are like the same timeline, and you have a child in My New Friend who is dealing with I would say, imaginary friend. That is, I'll just come out and say, that's my theory. It's just a game theory. Don't come for me. Is that these entities are like child imaginary friends. So I think My New Friend is this child's imaginary friend. And I think that in The House with No Windows, the child grown up goes to this entity's house somehow and meets it, and the entity is confused because it doesn't register that they're the same person. I think it only will views their, human friend as a child. So when it sees them grown up, it's like, I know your face, but like, what are you? Why are you in my house? Which I also love that, just turning it on its head of having a person intruding in a creature's house, I think is really fun. And I love the idea that this, entity, this monster, just has a house, and it's like a cute, nice house. It's just the layout is all f***ed up and weird because it's a creature, right? Like, to them, that's a normal layout, probably. So I find that very charming. It looks like the same creature because it doesn't necessarily have the gesture points that we see on the creature in the point and click games. It's more kind of scrungly and a little scarier in the face than the jester looking guy. So that's my theory on that, but I don't know how it quite connects to the In Your Home and Why Do You Keep Us Here. As far as that goes, I thought of this while rewatching it, and I'm trying to make sense of it in my head. I kind of think that the child that we see in your home that's crying and missing, Abby is the child's name, and we're getting like the POV is from the parent. I almost think that the camera person from My New Friend and The House with No Windows is the parent of Abby, and the jester creature 2, I don't know what to call them, is maybe Abby's imaginary friend. And the original entity is the cameraman's imaginary friend, so they are two different entities. And I almost think, I think, again, I'm about to get into curtains are blue territory. I don't think the entity hurt Abby. I think the parent did. The whole thing of the child crying on the other side of the house when the person has barricaded themselves into their room, like, no sane parent would do that. You would have your child close by. People don't put their kids on the other side of the house. They put them near their bed. When they're babies, oftentimes they're in the same room. So that's suspicious. And the fact that they're barricading the door, I think that, I mean, we see blood on the floor in the Why Do You Keep Us Here? So I don't know that literally, like, there was blood involved, but I wonder if it was just a case of neglect, a case of an accidental death, or maybe it wasn't even necessarily the cameraman's fault and it was something like sudden infant death syndrome or something like that. But I think that Abby has died, and now her buddy, her imaginary friend, who never really got to properly even hang out with her because she was a baby, is stuck in the house. And that's maybe what the, like, why do you keep us here? I think he can't go because Abby's gone. Like, Abby died, but he doesn't quite understand, maybe. And so now he's just, like, stuck in there with the parent. And at the end, he's, like, rattling on the door, probably because he doesn't know what to do. Like, he's just trying to get an answer. So I don't peg them as hostile at all. Like, I really, maybe I'll be wrong and I'll be proven wrong. I'll level with you. I'll be a little disappointed if the critters in this end up being hostile, because they seem very chill and, like, very sweet and shy. So I think that we're just getting different perspectives maybe of these, imaginary friends interacting with their people. We see Abby represented as a caterpillar in the beginning of Why Do You Keep Us Here, and we see that the jester imaginary friend is looking over her, saying that he doesn't recognize her. And I think that could play into the fact that they don't recognize the different ages of their people, because a butterfly and caterpillar transforms into a butterfly so drastically. It's such a drastic transformation, so I wonder if that's kind of a clue to that. But that also did confuse me, because then it made me think, well, are we seeing the perspective of the imaginary friends in the point and click games? But clearly not. Clearly we're still getting the parent or cameraman or camerawoman or whatever you want to call them. We're still getting their perspective. So, like, I have questions. I am a little confused, but that is what I would say is my predominant theory right now, is we have two entities and two humans. The two entities are the cameraman's imaginary friend, who is in My New Friend and The House with No Windows, who is, like, shy, would hang out with the camera person when they were a kid, watch TV, but very shy, doesn't want to be seen on camera. And then we have Abby and Abby's imaginary friend, or the jester imaginary friend, who is in Your Home and Why Do You Keep Us Here. And they seem a little more outgoing than the original imaginary friend. And I'm curious to see if they'll, like, interact. Like, the idea of maybe the camera person's critter talking to Abby's critter, and, like, maybe he's kind of like a baby too, because he's dealing with a younger kid, whereas the, you know, imaginary friend of the older person maybe ages just like people do, but they probably don't die because they're creatures. I don't know. I feel like I'm speaking a different language right now. And, you know, it's almost, sometimes usually when I have such a loose concept of what the hell's going on with series like this, I won't make a video on it, but I think it's interesting enough, and, like, it's vague enough that I wanted to spit my theory out, so when, you know, a year from now and 6 other videos have come out, I can go back and be like, oh my god, you were so stupid, GlitchWitch. But I really do want to die on the hill of I don't think they're hostile. I don't think it hurt Abby. I'm more suspicious of the camera person than I am of the creatures because, like, first of all, breaking and entering, diva, not cool. Crawling into a crawl space to bother some people in their house? No, I don't think so. You know, I will say, visceral reaction to the crawl space section of the house with no windows. I live in Georgia. We don't have basements. We have a crawl space. My crawl space looks exactly like that. My husband was triggered, dude. Scared the shit out of him. If you are not a homeowner, if you ever become a homeowner, the second you get the keys, all of a sudden you become worried about a crawl space in a way that you did not know was possible. Every single homeowner friend I have, they sit and talk to my husband like, have you been in the crawl space lately? So what do you think about crawl spaces? It's just, it's the rules. So don't be messing with this diva's crawl space. That's sacred. But yeah, I really, I think it would, I think a lot of people are like, oh my god, it's a scary monster, and that's not at all what I think is going on here. Like, I don't mean to dog on other internet horror, like, reviewers and analysts like me, because I'm nobody. I have barely any subscribers compared to these people, but I see a lot of very clickbaity headlines about Obelisk that are like, the most disturbing entity in analog horror, or like, this is crazy, and it's not. The series is not disturbing to me at all. The series is scary and uncomfortable because it's masterful at tension, and I'll sing it to the rooftops forever, over and over and over again. My favorite type of horror is that slow burn tension building. When I watched this for the first time, I had my dukes up. When that is a measure to me of a good scary thing, is if I put my fists up like this, waiting for something, you're doing good. And I love that it kind of was like anticlimactic. You'd see a guy, you'd see a little critter, but it didn't jump out at you. It wasn't baring its claws. It wasn't hostile. It was just like, hey, okay, bye. And I like that. I think that's really cool. That's like, it's the Skinamarink thing, right? But I do think that, you know, this is masterful, like, true liminal horror. It's not just someone trying to cash grab onto the concept of liminality. It has that just kind of magical in-between quality that you don't always get. It feels a lot like The Caretaker's music. Like, I know that sounds like I'm just saying internet horror buzzwords now. Liminal, caretaker. But it does. It feels like that. It's that, like, sickeningly sweet, uncomfortable nostalgia. And I think that's imaginary friends. That's reflecting on your childhood. You know, I had imaginary friends when I was a kid. I haven't thought about them in years. And the thought of them kind of forgetting you as well is sad and scary. So I think that that's what's really successful about, you know, the entity in House with No Windows being like, I recognize your face, but what are you? That's such a sad concept. So I wouldn't call this series disturbing or even traditionally scary, but it's tense and it's sad, but it's warm and it's just interesting. So I'm very excited to see what comes of it next. I will certainly keep watching. Lizardmen Inc., killing it. Love to see it. Love to see more VFX artists in internet horror. And I'm curious to see where this goes plot-wise. Because I'm banking on my imaginary friends, and I'm banking on that they're nice. I'm not going to die on the hill of the main character being a child murderer, though. I'm not going to do that. I would not be surprised if I'm wrong there. But I don't like the thought of that little guy with that little face hurting anyone. Like, that's a friend. He's shaped like a friend, truly. Truly. So, thank you so much for watching. If you have any analog horror series that you would like me to watch, let me know. I love getting recommendations from you. Analog horror series or creepypastas. I want to start reading creepypastas on this channel a little bit more. I recently read The Starvation of Angels and really had a good time doing that, and y'all seem to like it too, so if you have any good creepypastas, recommend them below. But I love hearing from y'all. So I would also like to thank my YouTube members. The creepypasta OCs are up on screen. And then in Survival Horror Emo, we have E-Rob and So-Called Punk. And then in Analog Horror Scary Face, we have Kira Coffer and Alvacan. If you would like to become a YouTube member, there's a little button next to the subscribe button. But liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, that always means the world. So thank you so much for watching. You know, if there's a dude hiding in your closet, see if he needs a snack or if he wants to, watch TV. Maybe I have one in my closet that will go watch Drag Race with me later. I can only hope. Looking like this, he probably won't want to.